December 19th, 1944, near Versailles, France, a jeep rolled toward an American checkpoint outside Supreme headquarters. 3 men sat inside, wearing American MP uniforms, correct helmets, correct patches, and calm faces that looked almost too perfect. The guards stepped into the road. "Password?" The driver answered without hesitation. "Patton." For 1 second, the word worked. Patton was the name every American had heard that week. Patton was moving north. Patton was attacking. Patton was the general the Germans feared and the Americans trusted. But the guard did not move. The uniforms were too clean. The men were too stiff. The driver's hands gripped the wheel too tightly. "Where are you coming from?" the guard asked. "Third Army headquarters," the driver said. "Urgent documents for General Eisenhower." It was a perfect answer. Too perfect. The guard lifted his rifle. "Step out of the vehicle." The driver hesitated. That hesitation was enough. 2 more guards appeared from the darkness. When they searched the jeep, they found forged papers, German pistols, explosives, and maps leading toward Allied headquarters. These men were not American MPs. They were German commandos, and they had been moving through American lines using one of the most trusted names in the U.S. Army, Patton. This is the story of how one General's name became a weapon in the hands of the enemy. Before we dive into this story, if you want more untold moments from World War I, hit subscribe. New war stories every week. To understand why one word could open a checkpoint, you need to go back 3 weeks. Germany, late November 1944. Hitler was running out of time. The Soviets were crushing from the east. The Americans and British were pushing from the west. Germany was short on fuel, short on men, and short on hope. But Hitler still believed one sudden strike could change the war. He wanted to attack through the Ardennes, split the Allied armies, and create enough panic to buy Germany time. It was desperate. It was almost impossible, so he called Otto Skorzeny. Skorzeny was tall, scarred, aggressive, and famous for dangerous missions. He had helped rescue Mussolini from captivity, and that operation made him Hitler's favorite commando. Now Hitler gave him a new mission. German soldiers would wear American uniforms. They would drive captured American jeeps. They would speak English. They would slip behind Allied lines and turn the battlefield into confusion. Change road signs, cut telephone wires, redirect convoys, spread false orders, make American soldiers doubt their maps, their officers, and even each other. The mission was called Operation Greif. On paper, it was a deception operation. In reality, it was psychological warfare. Skorzeny needed men who could pass as Americans under pressure. That was harder than Hitler imagined. Many Germans knew English, but few sounded American. Fewer still understood slang, baseball, state capitals, cigarettes, jokes, and the careless way American soldiers talked. They trained like actors, studying uniforms, rank insignia, weapons, papers, habits, and confidence. A nervous man at a checkpoint would die. A confident man might be waved through. Then Skorzeny gave them another weapon: American trust. In battle, checkpoints depended on quick passwords and familiar names. Guards were tired. Roads were crowded. Orders moved fast. If a jeep looked right, if the papers looked right, and if the password sounded right, a guard might let it pass. And among all American names, one carried special power: Patton. To American soldiers, he meant speed, attack, and rescue. To Germans, he meant danger. So if a courier claimed to come from Patton, it sounded urgent, it sounded important, it sounded real. On December 16th, 1944, the German offensive exploded through the Ardennes. Snow, fog, and surprise covered the attack. American units were suddenly hit by tanks, artillery, and infantry. Telephone lines went dead. Roads jammed. Headquarters struggled to understand what was happening. The Battle of the Bulge had begun. And inside that chaos, Skorzeny's men slipped through and captured jeeps and stolen uniforms. Some changed road signs, some cut wires, some sent traffic the wrong way. The physical damage was limited, but the psychological damage was enormous. Once Americans learned that Germans were wearing their uniforms, every uniform became suspicious. Every jeep became suspicious. Every accent became suspicious. At first, the stories sounded impossible. German soldiers dressed as Americans, speaking English, driving American vehicles, using American passwords. Then the first infiltrators were caught. Some carried American money. Some had forged documents. Some hid German weapons under American equipment. During interrogations, one rumor frightened Allied command more than all the rest. Eisenhower might be the target. Whether the plan was real or partly rumor no longer mattered. In war, fear does not wait for proof. From that moment, every jeep, every courier, every uniform, and every password became suspicious. Security around Eisenhower tightened immediately. Guards were warned not to trust uniforms alone. They were told to watch behavior, accents, hands, posture, and confidence that felt rehearsed. Skorzeny did not need to kill Eisenhower to affect Eisenhower. He only needed the Americans to believe he might try. Across the front, checkpoints changed overnight. A password was no longer enough. Guards asked questions only real Americans might know. Who won the World Series? What is the capital of Illinois? Who is Mickey Mouse's girlfriend? Some real Americans failed them, but the fear was real, and that is where Patton's name became dangerous. Patton's Third Army was preparing to turn north toward Bastogne. Couriers were moving. Messages were flying between headquarters. The name Patton appeared in orders, rumors, and hope. If a jeep arrived claiming to carry urgent documents from Third Army, it sounded believable. If the driver said Patton had sent him, men listened. That was not because Americans were foolish. It was because war runs on trust. A checkpoint guard cannot verify every detail in the middle of a crisis. Passwords are shortcuts. Famous names are shortcuts. The Germans had learned how to turn those shortcuts into traps. So when the jeep arrived near headquarters and the driver said Patton, he was not just giving a password. He was applying pressure. No tired guard wanted to delay urgent orders from Patton to Eisenhower, but the guard trusted his instincts. The men were too polished. Their silence was too heavy. Their eyes did not match their confidence. He ordered them out. The forged papers were good, but not good enough. The uniforms were correct, but the hidden weapons were German. The maps were not normal courier maps. When an officer addressed them in German, their faces changed. The performance was over. News spread quickly. German infiltrators had used American uniforms, American vehicles, American papers, and American trust. Worse, they had used Patton's name. Eisenhower's security became tighter. Visitors were questioned. Vehicles were searched. Guards stopped trusting easy answers. For days, real Americans were stopped by real Americans. A wrong answer could lead to arrest. A strange accent could make rifles rise. The enemy had not captured headquarters, but he had poisoned the confidence around it. When Patton heard that German commandos were using his name, the reaction was complicated. The Germans had chosen his name because it carried weight. It meant speed, it meant authority, it meant danger. But his name was supposed to inspire his men, not trick them into lowering their guard. The enemy had turned reputation into bait. A reputation does not belong only to the man who creates it. Once the enemy understands it, they can use it too. Patton's army kept moving. While suspicion spread behind the lines, his Third Army turned north through winter roads to help relieve Bastogne. Behind the front, soldiers searched for false uniforms. Interrogators questioned prisoners. Checkpoints became harsher. Captured infiltrators faced severe punishment because wearing enemy uniforms during combat crossed a dangerous line under the laws of war. To the men at the front, German soldiers pretending to be Americans were not clever, they were poison. In the end, Operation Greif failed as a military operation. It did not assassinate Eisenhower. It did not collapse Allied command. It did not change the outcome of the Battle of the Bulge. But for a short time, it achieved something rare. It made a huge modern army afraid of its own reflection. A jeep in the wrong place could stop a convoy. A rumor could trap a commander behind extra guards. A bad accent could trigger a rifle bolt. A password could become useless overnight. That was the real legacy of Skorzeny's mission. Psychological damage. Afterward, Allied security learned the lesson. A single word was not enough. A uniform was not proof. A familiar name was not identity. Guards had to ask questions that could not be stolen from captured papers. Culture became a weapon. Sports, slang, hometown knowledge, movie stars, small details that belonged to real life. The Germans could steal helmets, jackets, documents, and jeeps, but they could not perfectly steal a childhood. The story of the Patton password matters because it reveals a hidden battlefield. War is not only tanks, rifles, and artillery, it is symbols. Names, voices, uniforms, small signals that tell one man whether another man belongs. In December 1944, the Germans attacked those signals directly. They did not just cross American lines, they crossed into American confidence. For a few terrifying days, American soldiers had to ask a question. No army wants to ask in battle, can I trust the man in my own uniform? So imagine you are standing at that checkpoint in the cold December dark. A jeep rolls up. 3 men wear American uniforms. Their papers look correct. They're English. Sounds right. The driver gives the password Patton. Would you wave them through, or would you raise your rifle and ask one more question? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to see how Patton turned his army north in the middle of winter to break the siege of Bastogne, that story is next. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it.